Welcome to a adult ed class that was supposed to be on Cuba. There were supposed to be the 5 people that were down in Cuba. Were supposed to give their stories, impressions, what had happened there, all the good things about being with our brothers and sisters down in Sagua Grande, Cuba. If you're here for that, I am so sorry, but Bill Eklund got sick this past week, and he's supposed to give the presentation. So at the last minute, we said, you know what? Well, the last few days, we said, let us try another idea. And so what I thought we would do is really follow up. We've talked a lot about John Deere through the weeks and Diner by the Bass through the weeks. And what we might do today is, first of all, start with what Lent is all about, which will lead us into what do we do now? What are we doing in Lent right now, personally, perhaps? What does that season mean to you? What is it all about for everybody? But then what does it mean for all of us who have heard John Deere, read some of his book, heard Dinah Butler Bass, read some of her books? We can't just leave it there. We have to figure out, does this mean anything to us? You know, it's nice to have some nice ideas, and doesn't that sound great? But if it doesn't mean anything, that's why I brought this, not because that's on there. I'm going to erase that. We have a not even a flip chart, we have a whiteboard here for those who are online. And I'm going to make a list of what we come up with. But first of all, you there? First of all, let us calm down. Big day so far. And let us simply have a few moments of silence and a few words to bring us into this place. So all of us gathered together. And loving God, slow our heart rate down. Help us feel the ground that we walk on. Open our eyes to see those who are around us. Open our arms to embrace the world. And then be with us as we know you are, in this place, in this time, in Jesus' name. Amen. So we start. Welcome those online again. I'm going to try to see you. If you have a chat to put in there, okay. And we'd be heard. And I'll try to see if there's any hands raised. But first of all, just so we have an understanding as a whole group on what does this whole Lenten journey mean to you? What have you done differently? What haven't you done that you may have normally done? Anything about the tradition of Lent that may have been helpful to you in the past? Any conversation about that? Anything? I'll start us off as we begin to think about that. The word Lent comes from the word lengthen, and it means the days are getting longer. We know the church year that Christmas is in some of the darkest nights of the year, but that right after Christ is born, almost afterward, in the sky, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And so as we move on into this light, the words lengthen is Lent that we know. We have 40 days of a journey where every day is getting longer. Maybe as we go on this journey towards the cross, that we have a better sense of the direction we're going and what that might mean for us in that monumental event in the life of Christianity. And then beyond that, it doesn't leave with the cross, it leaves with a resurrected body, it leaves with resurrection and new life. So I've often attached Lent to spring training, as I mentioned in the first service, on how I'm so excited to get outside again and to play ball again, you know, when I was younger. And I mentioned in the first service how one of my first children's sermons at my first church is at Seminarium in Branford, Connecticut. outside of Yale area. And I had all these kids in a UCC church. And I didn't know what to do about children's sermon. I didn't know all these things yet. And so I just had us toss the baseball back and forth. And thinking now I would never do that because baseball is pretty hard. And if some little kid was a little more aggressive, that's exactly what I would not want to be part of. And so it can come with danger, like that, you know. But hold your hats, everybody, because Lent can be a journey that we don't want to miss. What is that journey? Anyone? Any other thoughts? Yes.
I had the opportunity in the last 3 months to borrow the book Dedicate, which I had often heard referred to, but it was basically the teaching curriculum of the early church before the Gospels were written and on through the Gospels writing. So it was the early tradition. So Lent, for instance, became a part of it and got started as a way of training new Christians when there were no Gospels.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Fascinating little study.
Did it come from a Jewish tradition?
Yes, it did.
It's almost everything did, right?
Right. But it was also, it was not, well, it went into the Roman churches as well, because of the early missionary work. So you had Paul would have been using the practices of the early church,
right,
and sharing them as a part of his mission. I have not, I think I tried doing something for Lent one time during seminary, but I never found it. Anything that interrupts my schedule, just keep away.
Okay, there you go. So, yeah, thank you, George. David.
I always think back to confirmation time. I guess probably 10, 11 years old. Every Friday during Lent, you get out of school a half a day early to come to church and go through confirmation class. And it wasn't something that I enjoyed doing because it required a lot of memorization and discipline. And I wasn't very good at either one of those. So I always kind of relate back to what it took back in those days to even join the church as a child. We had to go through this entire process. Some people were pretty good at it. I wasn't very good at it.
Yeah, so you and George now, George back maybe give a little bit in seminary, not very, no. Okay, so we're not getting a great groundswell of Lenten scholars here that are going to rock the talk.
And my mother cooked less meat. We always had fish or some kind on Friday anyway, since I was raised Episcopalian. So they pretend to be Catholic intermittently. But she cooked less meat, and I had no idea what that was about. I was totally confused. My mom and dad were in a church that neither one of them grew up in. So I don't think they really knew either. Then when I got older, I understood that you had to give things up, but I never really understood that either.
Mm-hmm.
So it never became much of a thing for me.
Okay.
And then Mardi Gras, right?
Oh yeah, that Tuesday.
Right.
Get it going. Before we have to sacrifice,
Yeah.
all that during Lent. Yeah, so it's not one of the more popular seasons. I mean, we like a holiday that's kind of short. It's not a holiday, but they're holy days. And they're 40 days plus Sundays. So if you count it up, you're going to get more than 40 days because you have Sundays in there.
So does that correlate with the 40 days? Of
Always.
Night?
It always is. Anything, anytime you see 40, you're going back to the wilderness. You're going back to the 40 days and nights of the flood. You're going back to, whatever it is, 40, that was like a generation. That was a lifetime. And that means you can think about a lifetime. It's a long time if you live long. Yeah.
40 years was the longest.
That was kind of the average, yeah, that's probably normal, yeah.
How did it start, this idea of what am I going to give up for Lent? How did that get going?
You know what, it's all about, you know, I know I have it in front of me exactly what, but that Jesus going to the cross, to follow Jesus, do we keep everything we did and all the things that make our life kind of nice and so forth? It means we have to give up something. Jesus gave up his life, David. And so what do we give up? It's that kind of sense. You know, it's a spiritual practice, extraordinary. And so, you know, what do you give up? Well, of course, the big one is chocolate, right? You know, and that didn't last long. I thought cookies for a while. No, there was, my mom made some chocolate chip cookies, and they were so tasty out of the oven that I couldn't give those up. And you give up watching a movie? No, you couldn't give up watching. So we try to do anything we can to give up something that's not gonna hurt you. Right? But back in the early days, what can you give up because Jesus gave us so much? And that we need to follow Jesus. And so we
Friends
keep-
that I had said that it was all about giving something up because when you use that, whatever it was you decided, then it was a reminder of like why you were doing that because of the death of Christ. It was not so, you know, so I of course, like now I was Southern Baptist, so I didn't even know there was such thing called it. So it was
Yeah.
just, you know, we just had all calls and as long as.
Southern Baptists didn't recognize Lent?
Oh, not at all, not at all, nor at. So it was, back in the old days. So it was, but then I remember friends were going to churches and at Lent time, rather than, giving up something, let's see, they turned it into a positive thing. It was, I'm trying to remember not exactly what it was all about, but it was, they went from giving up something to doing something special. But it was still a remembrance of like, oh, of Christ's, you know, sacrifice was really what it was all about. But when I first started going to the Presbyterian church was my first introduction, and our church always had, we read a book when we were in little groups, and it was always something more about, I guess, more a social issue, and those books were, so I thought it was kind of neat, because we went every once a week, all the time of Lent, and it was, I enjoyed it, and I learned something from it, so it's, I don't know, it's tradition.
Yeah. And sometimes tradition loses the impact if you
It
don't
does.
really practice it or understand it. And they did it back then. Why didn't you have Lent? Oh, but maybe today I'm hearing more and more people say, well, I think we should do something more positive to bring something on or stop doing things in life.
Yes.
Not giving up, but stop. So I would say this with the scripture this morning. For those who haven't been to church yet or may not be able to get there, the scripture is Matthew 7:1-5. Need I say more? You all know it by heart. Well, not quite. But it means the one where Jesus says, "Do not judge." Why do you want to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye when you have a log in your own eye? All that kind of thing. It's pretty harsh. Pretty harsh. It would hurt. You know, we talked about that in Bible study. Right. But what if we were to stop judging others? Would that be a Lenten journey that I could get behind? Probably so, because we're going to learn a lot about how hard that is. You know, it turns out that chocolate is hard to give up, but I think not judging anybody is a little more difficult. I'm just thinking.
Right now, these days, it really is, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. And if you can't see that, I don't know, on the line here, regarding the man's question about the origin of giving something up, I'm also thinking about the fact that baptism and or annual confession were associated very early with Easter. I just found this online. Earliest observances of Lent seem to have focused particularly on the practice of fasting. Good. Council records suggested the fast applied first mainly to new converts as a period of repentance, a reflection before baptism and Easter. Thank you so much for looking that up and knowing that. You know, Ronald Morgan.
Okay.
And so, so yes, so it was the fasting part. There we go with the chocolates and the cookies and the, I can add ice cream to that.
The donut hole.
The donut, hole, and
And it's also similar to Ramadan, I mean, a lot of things are cultural. So I find that kind of interesting.
yes, right, Ramadan, the same kind of thing going on right now. We got
Similar time.
similar time. I know about the music in the church. Traditionally, when you get to Lent, you don't have many major notes. There's a lot of minor. It's subdued. You don't have Hallelujah. That comes with Easter, but you don't have Hallelujahs right now. And so let's see what the hymns sound like, as we go through the rest of this time. So we're
Oh, that's neat. I remember the first time I ever experienced, it was it must have been the Sunday before Good Friday. And the church sanctuary was stripped.
Easter Day.
And that was that Easter Day?
It was like a tube.
Oh, and then but I thought it came back in on Easter Day. I just remember standing there because it was a really beautiful church. And there were, everything went out. And I had never, because it was before the crucifixion. And then on, of course, Easter Sunday, everything came back in and
Right.
it was beautiful and
Right.
flowers and all that. But it was a reminder of that.
right, yeah, exactly right. So we were getting a little bit closer to some of the earlier things Ron mentioned, about the fasting part, about what Lent can mean, about what that journey looks like for all of us. And I'm suggesting maybe we do things that we normally don't think about doing because it's not what the culture is. But maybe today's scripture helps remind us, maybe giving up judging might be a noble way to spend our days in Lent. But how hard that is. But catch yourself. Maybe after today you'll catch yourself. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I can think of different. Maybe that's one way to look at it. Any other things that maybe we could stop doing or need to do because let's see. John Deere, you were to Dr. John Deere. What word would he use?
Peace.
Practice peace and non-violence. Read his gospel of peace, and you will, this book right here, I brought it, Gospel of Peace. Every passage, every story in the Gospels from Matthew, Mark, and Luke. He would have done John, but it was just going to be too long, too big. The publisher didn't that was way to sell books is make it this big. And so
Diana Butler Bass would say, practice gratitude.
practice gratitude. Yes, indeed. Bringing Diana into here. Practice. I'm going to just write this on the board for the people who are here, to remind them of some of the things we're talking about. I'll be right back. I'm just going to write this down. Don't judge. And gratitude. Okay, thank you, Diana, for writing a whole book on gratitude when she admitted she wasn't very good at it. But then she started to look at it more closely. And I think by reading that book, I might say now maybe I can do a little better job, by understanding all that's behind gratitude. Okay, gratitude, good. Oh, time violence. Okay, maybe during this time, notice there's no hyphen there.
Can judgment be used as a teaching tool? I mean, faculties do it all the time. They judge your work, your grade, whatever, and the idea is not to personalize it so much, but to try to make a teaching tool out of it. I'm going to judge your essay. I'm going to mark it all over the place. But the idea is, is to try to get you to improve yourself.
Right.
So it's not necessarily always a negative thing.
Perhaps it isn't, although I think back to Yale Divinity School and what they did for grading was honors high pass or pass. If you didn't pass, you just didn't pass. But you got those three areas, you could say A, B, and C, but it wasn't trying to make you think, I gotta get an A again. Okay. It was all, and they weren't judging as much as trying to help you along, like you're saying. It could be a teaching tool, you know, and not get us all tied up against stuff. We're so used to that in the school system. Oh, I gotta get an A, great one, everything. Oh. It drives you up nuts. And you're trying to be better than the other person. And when you're trying to be better, you're somehow being judgmental about how they aren't as good as you. That all the stuff can come into play. Jesus keeps saying, no matter how many rebuttals we have, I don't see that in verse 6. Saying, but teachers, professors can, they grade it how to. It just wasn't there. Jesus just said, oh, judging hurts. Like you got a stick in your eye. That hurts. That's dangerous. You can use a lot of different ideas about what metaphors or stories or other objects, you know, whatever it is, use a lot. That's pretty bold. That's pretty painful. So I'm still looking for loopholes. So maybe that's one, you know. Loopholes are good, right? Oftentimes, yeah, George.
I can't remember the name, but there is a Native American pastor, Episcopal, I think, and a bishop. I'm not sure all the qualifications, but he wrote a book called The Four Vision Quests of Jesus. And I bring it up because it's kind of a bridge between what we were talking about earlier, the Lent, and preparation. The vision quest in the Native American tradition is all about preparation. You're preparing for some experience or event that is going to shape your future.
Thanks.
So like your home run or your batting over the heads of the others this morning, or in the early church, assuming a discipline or a new mode of purity, I suppose, is the tradition. You prepare, and John Deere is doing in that book, it's where he handled the temptations of Jesus. If you are the Son of God, throw yourself over the cliff.
Yeah.
If you are the Son of God, make yourself some meat. If you are the Son of God, do this or do that.
All the world is yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know, you're bringing up something really important here. Is the preparation part. Preparation for a new life. Preparation for ending part of your life that you want to get rid of it would die in you. This is all the spiritual direction, the Ignatian style that I keep talking about. I did a class on. And I've been talking to Jeannie Bowman, who's a spiritual direction. I think you mentioned maybe that'd be interesting. I'm not sure you're so interested, but we will get a new spiritual direction group going. And so it's all about dying to something. This whole third movement of 4 and being ready for a new life because you died to something. So it's preparing ourselves. Now, my question to all of us in a mainline church like ours, how much preparation have we really done? How much education have we really done? How much have we spent? How many hours a week have we spent being prepared? Learning. I can count how many minutes. 12 months or so. Here, we're trying, but it's an hour a week. We all can't be here every week. We come to worship for an hour, maybe 5 minutes afterward. I'm sorry, but you know, but I'm trying to add up all the hours that we, as those who follow Jesus, actually prepares us for this. Learn about what it means. I'm not sure we're really racking up the hours. I don't think we are. What does that mean for our children? But I hope the education for our children will be, they come here and they feel love. They feel this is what they will remember. But we also want to teach them some of the stories that make us all want to open our arms wide to heaven. So that's what we hope. But how many of us can come every week? So I'm just saying there's an issue with education. And Nat, good to see your end on the screen. Nat, you're on.
Hi, just reflecting on, excuse me, the excuse me, how what's in the spotlight is really so much more supported by everything that's in the wings and in the margins, and that what's in the spotlight would not be supported without what's in the wings and in the margins.
Huh? Nice. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so you think 4 is enough right now to worry about? We only have a little bit more time in Lent.
I'm pretty sure I'll have trouble getting by the first one.
Yeah, we should put that one down, way down here. No, that's an extra credit.
It's huge though. I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. I mean,
It is.
It's the one that's the least possible.
yeah, or just really, really, and I keep thinking, can I not judge the people that that I see on the news? And I guess it was this morning when, oh, David, you said that let's hear from the judge. So of course, I mean, I would always want to hear from Bruce Black because I just find him to be such an extraordinary man. But, you know, if you think about judges in general, well, somebody owns them. I mean, it's not.
Well, I think the difference is a judge takes information that he has at the time, makes an assessment of what his inputs are, and then I guess would be the negative aspect, he actually has to make a judgment. And it's not necessarily good or bad, it's a word.
But when politics get involved.
Yeah,
Right.
well, south for me.
Yeah.
And in part times when money gets involved.
Oh.
I think what has to drive the board.
Right. Yeah, yeah, Nat,
Don't judge the book by its cover.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Like, it's everything that is within is not generally not always reflected by the veneer that's on the outside. That it's, you know, I'm kind of saying the same thing with just a lot of different words.
Sure. Right, exactly. Yeah, Alex.
I'm having trouble within my children, one of them is so busy judging the other one and how she raised, how they're
Oh,
raising
dear.
their children. And so I've become very judgmental of that one and want to say the right thing that might wake her up and see what she's doing, but then I'm being judgmental. So it's hard.
It's very hard. So we will put don't judge on the bottom of that list. You and Alex right now. But I want to make sure those online can see what I was trying to show you with my camera on my computer. The list is don't judge, gratitude, nonviolence, and preparation, training, whatever that might mean for you. And I'm suggesting maybe that the don't judge, if we were trying to tackle that, somehow gratitude may come forth from that, because we're not looking at the deficiencies in somebody, the deficits in somebody, but you're looking at them being human in front of us, and we live this life together, and things happen, we can share in that life together. And gratitude comes from appreciating the other person. Nonviolence, what if we were not to judge other countries or other people or other whatever? Maybe we don't have the need to hurt them. I don't know, maybe that's an idea that may come forth. Nonviolence, how important that was in the Gospels, as John Deere points out, in the preparation training, how important that is, just to learn all this stuff. Learn the scriptures, You know, if I could ask anyone to do anything in the Christian life, it is to learn the stories of Jesus. You know, learn the monumental foundational stories in the Old Testament. Get an overview of the entire Bible to know that it isn't a violent God we're looking at. We're looking at a God who enters a world that is one of war and violence and oppression. And God is trying to help all of us understand how we might live that. You know, the reign of God, the older word, the kingdom of God, the ways that Jesus lifted up all he met, all those he met. And so it's learning those stories and telling those stories to our children and our grandchildren, and let the story build up in them. Let the story walk with them. I can forget words that someone told me I'm supposed to write down and take a test on, but a story stays with me. And that's what we're trying to do, is just get the stories to stay with all of us. So, with all that said, that was a preparation, everybody, for the 15 minutes we have left. Isn't it fun to talk about words? But what does it actually mean for you personally? You online, you right here with me. And what does it mean for this congregation and Christianity in general, perhaps, and in faith communities across the world? What would it mean if we were to really take, don't judge seriously, gratitude that we learned from Dr. Butler fast, and that's bringing Jesus to be who Jesus really was, is that not violence with John Deere, and then to be training on what would it look like. What can I tell session this Wednesday night? I said, you know, we had a class on Sunday morning, these great ideas. The last 15 minutes were filled with people just right and left there coming up with ideas of what we should be doing, could be doing, might be doing. And here they are, session. Go ahead. That's where I am right now. The end of the remainder of the class, what will it look like? What shall we do now? We didn't bring John Deere out just so you could hear him and then remember a few little things. We didn't bring Diane Butler Bass out here just for to do different offerings, and then we kind of put a book to the side. By the way, there are still books available. Gratitude and Free Jesus Living. So any ideas?
Well, I would move prepare to the top of the list, because, I mean, there would be a huge, I think, litany of activities that could be around prepare. Because if you don't prepare, then we can say don't judge all the time, but if you don't really know how to position yourself, I think preparing is the most important thing for anything we're going to or we need to do.
And so, concretely, prepare what? Prepare who?
I think that, well, I think it would be wonderful to just have a book group that met, that went through one of Diana Butler Bass's books. I mean, I just think that that could be a very worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, get the discussions going, more people involved with the book, and that can lead to other things. But at least you get to know each other.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And if we could get Jan Williams to lead it, that would be even better.
Oh.
Because she is like, but she's in my book group and she is phenomenal.
Okay, so,
She's a person that reminds you why you loved English.
oh, wow.
Because she's that good. She's,
Yeah, we all need to take that. Thank you.
that's because you're a scientist too.
I love book clubs now, but back then I hated it. I
Okay.
just want to say a thing about gratitude. I became an Al-Anon member back in the early 2000s because I had alcoholics in my main family and also my husband. And I also had a really tough job at the time, a job that was extremely right-wing people working there and then me. And then one other guy with me. And then also it was tough, it was just plain difficult. And I would spend 5 minutes in my car before I went to work every single day doing a gratitude. And I know that seems kind of pedantic, but excuse me, it actually got me into a mood of positivity because I was judging. I was very negative about the people I was gonna have to work with the next 12 hours. And so I still do gratitude lists when I remember to do them when things are really good. I don't know that it changes me as a person, but it allows me to get out of my car and do what I need. I was reading about that this morning, that if you do that, and this was not a Christian book, it was a meditation book, but if you can become positive, then even if you have to do something difficult, it's possible. Because otherwise, if you end up like putting it off, not doing it, choosing to do something else. And then it's always somebody else's fault. It's never yours,
Oh,
right?
sure.
You made me do this.
Diana Butler Bass in the book. Yes, said she couldn't have gotten through the pandemic and the election of Trump in 16. With that, she had started this book on gratitude, and then she felt overwhelmed, like, I can't write a book on gratitude right now.
I'm pretty nice.
Yeah,
Washed up on that.
but she started practicing what she was writing. And then I think once you get to that point, the nonviolence kicks in and the no judging kicks in and.
You lose your temper less often. You can walk away and say what your part was in the disagreement. And think how you could have done it differently, and maybe the next time you will, and apologize in a meaningful way, not just using I'm sorry as a punctuation mark.
Yeah. I took a big step this morning. Instead of wearing my bright orange shirt, I wore my orange turtleneck. But then I thought, if those countries over there can get along a lot better nowadays, I can wear some green.
Oh, there you go, there you go.
My grandmother's probably rolling over in her grave, but I'm being daring today.
Oh, good. Right there in the middle. David,
I have to think that I'm probably one of the most judgmental persons that I know. And so I'm trying my best to practice one skill that it came up in church one time and it comes up in my family all the time. And I'm trying to learn how to listen better.
Ah.
Because when somebody's talking to me, I'm not listening to them. I'm already formulating the argument that I'm gonna have against them. So when you talk about judgment, right away, I'm trying to think of all the reasons that judgment is a good thing.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, we shouldn't be doing this, I'm trying to tell you why it's okay to do it.
I would think of my good retorts the next day or something, you know, darn.
No, I do it immediately, and sometimes it's painful.
oh, there it is. No, it's really painful. It's the
But I think that would be maybe another, like just concrete things, is really learning how to listen, because I think we all do that. Because the minute you said you think you're very judgmental, in my mind, I'm thinking, no, he's not. I mean, especially in my mind, because what I see is one of the least judgmental people.
Oh, you don't know me very well.
Well,
You'll have to get to know each other.
Well, I think you're a very, very honest person. I don't know if, I mean, judgment maybe figures into that, but it's hard to listen to people, really listen.
And not talk over them.
And that's why
Sort of like you.
billions and billions of dollars are spent on going to a therapist who's paid to listen to you. You know, I mean, you pay them. They're not gonna
Oh, yeah, we did.
tell their own story. I mean, that kind of thing, people, because that's often what we need. But I want to look at this nonviolence. You mentioned nonviolence before we close. Huge, 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 huge. You think don't judge is hard. Nonviolence is huge. John Deere will say that is the number one thing we need to be doing in this world is practice nonviolence in everything. You may say it won't work. You always bring up Hitler, always bring up somebody, but think about what nonviolence might do in any situation you're in. I am thinking about the idea. not by alone, of course, but this whole concept of Israel. What if we as a church just say, we were to go to the city council and say, we want you to declare or do something where they say, we demand a ceasefire. Especially, but to have a conversation about what a ceasefire is. At the national level, they're starting to do that now with Schumer's talk. Okay, but it's been dragging feet. How many people, thousands of people have died before the first idea about a ceasefire came about? What about if this church really was focusing on nonviolence? Where is the line we draw to say, well, that's a good nonviolence, but that one's not a good nonviolence? I mean, where do we draw? There's no drawing in the Gospels of Peace. John Deere would say, there's no line there. It's not violence without it happening. You know, and so it takes something concrete. If we were to say, city council, mayor, do something, just make it stand. What would that mean? It would mean,
And
well,
what would stand be about Russia and the Ukraine? Because our country wants to give money for weapons
Yep.
for Ukraine to defend themselves. And so in that case, Russians are dying. If we're gonna be nonviolent, we have to be nonviolent across the board.
you see how it all happens? And it's so complicated. We're so connected. Everything is so meshed with everything else. And so if we say nonviolence here, but what we can't say there because we're giving the weapons. And if we can't get the weapons out of there, then we have corporations that are screaming because they don't make the profit. It goes one level to another. It's a huge issue. That's why it keeps showing up in the Gospels. Huge back then, huge now. But we never tried it very well. We never got to a place where we said, and now we're living a life of nonviolence. I'm not sure. Who does that? Well, maybe Gandhi, maybe King, maybe, I don't know, maybe John Deere does, maybe. But who knows? Jesus. Yeah. I can probably count on Jesus. So let's look more closely. But it also means we just can't use it up here, that knowledge. It means maybe we have to trot over 2 blocks to the city hall. Or trot over someplace else and say, you know what? We can't do this anymore.
I think for me, I would have to know more about nonviolence. To me, I really just automatically think of guns. So is there some way to do that? But I think there must be, there is more to it than that. There has to be, because when I heard John Deere speak that morning, and that, I mean, he can't go a lot of places because, you know, but then he told us that he broke into a facility and was hammering on a plane. Well, to me, that's violent. I mean, to like break into a military establishment that you know you're not supposed to be on, for me, that's not non-violent. To maybe be outside those gates and say something, but the moment you break across a barrier that you're not supposed to break across, then you may not have a gun with you, but if you have a baseball bat, that's pretty violent.
And so then you wonder, yeah, it all
So
is so meshed together, you know, and it's not clear.
No, it's not.
But then you think about Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, verse 4. To beat swords and plowshares. But it says speech. It's not just that, oh, let's do a nice little tap and make it look like a plow. It means you're beating this weapon. So it no longer is a weapon. John Deere is beating that, whatever he's beating, so it's no longer a weapon.
I think it was a bomb.
Bomber. He's doing, so, and in some ways you can tie back that, in ways that. So
It
yes,
seems violent.
yeah. And so what does that all mean? This is not easy, everybody. I was hoping we get this figured out within. Now, every time I'm disappointed, every single time, George.
I think, the, it was your idea about the book group, that is a way to expand knowledge. It's also a way to vary action.
That's a good one.
And it's somehow, holding both of those pillars together. The other book that you suggested a few weeks ago, Meeting Jesus, for the first time. He stresses that Jesus was dealing with a purification system over against what was a political system of dishonoring the poor or taking advantage of the poor. How long did it take Jesus to figure out that's what the polarity was he was dealing with? But once he figured that out, he put a lot of energy into coming over against the Pharisees, who were really champions of the purity culture. Lent is about becoming pure in the terms of the traditional disciplines of Lent. So the early church picked up on that, but at the same time, it could be about taking on a new action, taking on a new responsibility.
Right. And in that book, compassion is the prime word that Jesus was all about, Marcus Borg.
That's right.
It's not love, yes, but compassion is what he exhibited. Love can be action and a noun or verb. Compassion, though, he showed compassion all the time. And so, yeah.
And that was the book that Diane Butler Bass, I don't know if she was a Bass at that time, but she gave
Probably about her.
that book to, she gave that book to the guy who had just asked her out.
Yeah, that was the Bass part. Yeah, that's the Bass part. Yeah, so, yeah, that book, there you are. So we have a list, everybody, we have 5 words. I mean, don't judge it when it's the same word. But online, we have a list here that we thought would be a noble enough list so we can walk with them to the cross. So don't judge, listen, learn to listen. Gratitude, make a list of it, make it easier for you to every day make a list of what we're grateful for. Non-violence, how hard that is. Imagine the ramifications for whatever action you take or not take. Prepare at the top of the list, but in the book group, and we'll get Jan Williams and Sam. And then I put in capital letters, compassion, because that's what Jesus was always trying to get across to people. No matter what, we need to be compassionate. If we walk with compassion and prepared for this in a wonderful way and live lives of non-violence as much as we can, if not more, being grateful and don't judge as we're walking, maybe it would be a good Lent. Maybe it would be. Or maybe it'd just be a Lent that we learn something from. Maybe a Lent that other people say, that's what they're doing. That's why they're like this. This church over there, they took it seriously. And then Easter means something a little more, maybe because we were on this journey together, trying all these things. Oh, I thank you for being here today.
You know, Harry, I just was thinking, I can't ever get that little Catherine out of my mind.
Oh, she's okay.
I mean, well, and I think what you were talking, and I was just thinking, when she looks at you in the, you know, like when, or any of us.
Yeah.
It is, she has absolutely zero guile. I mean, she just is completely open in believing everybody is on her side. You know, I mean, that's kind of how she, you know, and everybody treats her that way because of course she's just a little tiny girl and she's precious. But it's, maybe that's what compassion, if people always thought we were on their side, at least, maybe not the same position politically, maybe not the same position in a lot of ways, but we're for them. We're for people, we're not.
So maybe the 6th word is Catherine. We need to walk with Catherine.
Catherine,
And we will learn a lot about what this is all about. Look to our children. Look to those who can teach us. So a good way to end this. So, and meet Catherine. If you haven't met her yet, come up for a service and you will see Catherine look up at you. And you say, wow.
Your heart is little.
Thank you all. Next week, we don't have class for the week after because it's Palm Sunday. Next week, 9:30 service in the sanctuary. We go to the plaza for a gathering as we had for
Oh, we
22.
have the Piper.
We had the Piper again, they'll lead us at Easter. You'll see the schedule in your bulletin, but 6:30, 9:30 Federal Park, followed by Easter egg hunt and 11 o'clock service in the sanctuary. Thank you all for being here. No class until April 14th because the first Sunday is April 7th. So we'll miss you. But we'll see you in the meantime. Thank you all. Thank everybody online. Thanks for your participation, presence.